Hi again. This is chapter 2 of Lily and the Good Shepherd. Night was quickly descending on the tiny flock, and the shepherd was about to gather his sheep to himself to prepare them for the night when he noticed Spike pacing back and forth, nervously looking toward the mountains. As he moved toward Spike, suddenly all the sheep started crowding around him, pushing and shoving to get in close enough to hear what the shepherd was going to say to him. Spike saw him coming and began to tremble. He knew Lily would want him to stay silent, but just as the shepherd was opening his mouth to speak, he blurted out the whole story: the missing sheep, Lily's determination to rescue them, and lastly, the sound of the enemy in the hills. The shepherd wasted no time. He immediately ordered the flock to huddle closer together. He put Kingpin in charge and then set out to find his 2 lost sheep and their nutty yet well-intentioned rescuer. Lily had no idea where she was. She had lost sight of the pasture a long time ago, and now she was in this strange forest. A sudden shiver went through her. The air was getting colder. It had to be because the trees were so thick, she reasoned to herself. She couldn't even see the sky, much less feel the sun's warmth on her face. And she was so thirsty and hungry. How long had she been looking for those 2 dumb sheep anyway? Lily was also angry. Knowing those 2, she began, "They're probably playing a trick on me," and went back to the flock hours ago. Suddenly she stopped. What was that? She thought she heard a sound behind her. Slowly and cautiously, she began to look around. "What was that?" she said in a shaky voice. "Could there be anyone there? I have the strangest sense I'm not alone." But just as panic began to rise in her throat, she started to laugh at herself. "Oh, wait. It's gotta be Dutch and banter." She turned toward the sound and put her hoof on her hips. "Okay, you 2 furballs. I know you're out there. Show yourself, or I'll have you made into sweaters." Suddenly, the forest became eerily silent and cold. It was as if every living thing had disappeared. Lily didn't hear any birds singing or bugs calling to each other, and no squirrels were scampering and jumping from tree to tree. Nothing. All she could hear was the sound of her heart pounding in her ears. Immediately, she felt gripped with fear. "This is ridiculous," she scolded herself. "Knock it off, Lily. You're of the great shepherd's flock. You have nothing to fear." She abruptly stopped and looked around. Unless, of course, you're away from the flock and the shepherd and you're doing your own thing. Just then, a twig snapped behind her, sending cold chills through her body. As she swung around toward the sound, a gasp escaped from her throat. There, among the thick brush and dense leaves, 2 cold, fierce, yellow, beady eyes were staring right at her. It was the enemy of all sheep. It was the wolf. In the next second, Lily sprang into the air and scrambled back up the bank, galloping over clumps of dirt, leaping fallen tree trunks, dodging low branches, and jumping over puddles of water with the enemy close in pursuit. Lily ran and ran, her thoughts racing as fast as her hooves. Lily frantically began looking for anything familiar. "I have to find a way out of this forest and back to my beloved shepherd. Oh, why did I go out on my own? Faster and faster she ran, with branches continuing to hit her in the face. Her legs were getting bruised and scraped by the thorns as she stumbled over the broken limbs and mounds of dirt. Yet somehow she managed to stay on her feet. Finally, she saw it, a ray of light in the distance. She cried, "Could it be a clearing? At last I'll be out of this dreadful forest and away from the enemy." Using her last bit of strength, Lily ran with all her might toward the light. But suddenly, she felt the earth disappearing under her. What was happening? Then reality hit her hard. She was falling. She had not been watching, and now she was falling headlong down a steep cliff. She reached out frantically and grabbed a vine as she passed by. The vine stopped her fall, but she landed hard into a bunch of briars and then rolled down the rest of the way into a dried up ravine. She was in a dark, empty pit. Her first reaction was to get angry. "Why is this happening to me?" she yelled. "I don't deserve this. What are the others going to think when they hear? This is so humiliating." She pulled and yanked to get herself free from the briars, but every time she moved, she got herself even more tangled and scratched. The harder she struggled, the madder she became. Where is that shepherd anyway? If he really cared, he would never have let this happen to me. From just above her, she heard an evil laugh, but she couldn't see anyone. "Ha ha ha! He doesn't care about you, my little lamb chop. He never has. Oh, and by the way, he's not coming. He's mad at you, and now he's left you." Lily looked around. Who was that? She wondered. It didn't sound like the enemy's voice. It almost sounded like my own voice. Yet it must have been the enemy. But that's impossible, isn't it? Could the enemy speak to me in my own thoughts? Wait, maybe it was the shepherd's voice, and he's telling me that I've messed up too much and he abandoned me. Despair washed over her, and from deep within came a mournful wail. Oh, tears streamed down from her eyes, and she buried her face in her front legs as the reality of her situation hit her. Look at me. I'm filthy and muddy, badly scraped and bleeding, and I can't even move. She began to cry uncontrollably. Just then, a face appeared above her, but it was too dark to tell who it was. "Is that you, Good Shepherd?" she asked hopefully through her tears. "Please help me." Then the wolf's hideous laugh hit her as if she had been struck in the face. "He's not going to help you. I told you he left you. I finally have you trapped, and you can't get away." As Lily cried, the wolf laughed even harder. "Ha ha ha!" Lily lifted her face to the heavens and cried, "Dear shepherd, I need you. If you don't come for me, I'm finished. I can't do this on my own anymore. I give up." The wolf began to creep slowly down the embankment. "Just what I've been waiting to hear," he said with a sneer. As he reached the bottom, he saw Lily cowering in the corner. He crouched low and crept closer and closer toward the frightened lamb. But just as he was about to spring and attack her, he found himself being lifted off his feet. The shepherd had him by the neck with his shepherd's hook and was swinging him around and around in the air. Then, in one mighty motion, the wolf was being hurled out into space, never to be seen again. The shepherd then turned and gently lifted Lily out of the pit and set her down on a huge rock right next to two trembling, dirty, and very repentant lost souls peeking sheepishly at her from around the shepherd's back. It was Banter and Dutch. The shepherd sat down on a rock and gently scooped Lily up in his arms. Lily buried her wet, dirty face into his chest. "You came," she said as she continued to cry and sniff. "You really came. I was so scared. I didn't think you would come." The shepherd gently stroked her bruised and battered body. "Of course I came, my little lamb. I was here the whole time you were in the pit. But I had to wait until you stopped struggling and trying to do it on your own before I could lift you out. The enemy, my dear Lily, was never the problem. You know I'm stronger than he is. He was lying to you when he said, 'I don't care about what happens to you. I love you.' And when he said I was mad and had left you, that was a big fat lie. His words are never true. I will never leave you." Lily sniffed and lovingly looked up into her kind shepherd's eyes. "I'm sorry I ran ahead and got so lost. It's just that I didn't know what to do anymore. I try so hard to be good, but I just keep making mistakes. I try to keep the flock together by loving them just as you said, but they make me so mad." The shepherd smiled. She looked down and continued, "I've been telling them that they don't have to be just, sheep, but they never listen. I try to lead them to greener pastures. I'm always on the lookout for still waters, and I wanted so badly to rescue them from the enemy. But look what happened. I ended up almost being destroyed myself. I can't change anyone, great shepherd. I can't even change myself. Oh, how I wanted to be like you. I tried, but I always ended up with the same old me." The shepherd laughed and hugged his little lamb. "Oh, my little Lily, don't you understand that you can never be like me on your own? It takes much more. You need my spirit. Following me and knowing me is the only way you can become like me. I love you and the flock so much. Trust me to lead them in the way that they should go." Lily sighed and snuggled even closer. "Well," she said with a slight smile and gleam in her eye, "I guess that means I better cancel my order for the miniature rod and staff I was going to use to comfort them." The shepherd threw back his head and laughed. "Oh, my Lily," he said as he lifted her onto his shoulder and headed back to join the others at the meadow, while two very dirty but grateful little sheep followed close behind. The end.